She thought her marriage was safe. She trusted the one person who stood by her side. But in her final moments, that person whispered something that shook her world. What she discovered afterward will leave you completely speechless. Hello, family. Welcome to Tales Haven. I hope you find my story videos interesting and engaging. Kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel for more stories. Thank you as you do so. Sit back, relax as we dive into the story. The room was quiet, too quiet. The only sounds were the soft beeping of machines and the slow, tired breaths of an old woman fading away. The white walls of the hospital room felt colder than usual, and even the sunlight coming through the window seemed dim. Sarah Dawson sat by the bed, gently holding the frail hand of her mother-in-law, Linda. The woman who once had a powerful voice and firm opinions now looked small, her face pale and her lips dry. Tubes ran from her arms, and a thin oxygen line rested across her nose. Tears filled Sarah's eyes as she looked at the woman who had been more like a mother to her than her own ever was. Linda was the only person who had shown her love and quiet support after she married Marcus, her husband. Marcus Dawson, the man everyone thought was perfect. To the world, Marcus was successful, handsome, and charming. He ran a growing business, spoke well at events, and always smiled in photos. People admired him, but they didn't live with him. Sarah did. And she knew the truth. Marcus had a different face behind closed doors. He wasn't physically violent, but his words cut deeper than punches. He controlled her money, questioned her every move, and twisted her words until she doubted her own mind. He never let her feel enough. But Linda had always seen the sadness in Sarah's eyes. She never asked too many questions, but she noticed. She would quietly press Sarah's hand or leave her small notes like, "I'm here if you ever need me." Now Linda was dying. Cancer. The doctors had said she didn't have long. That morning, they called Sarah and said, "You should come. It could be any time now." So she came. Alone. Marcus had said he was too busy to leave work. Sarah leaned in close to the bed, brushing a few loose gray hairs off Linda's forehead. "I'm here," she whispered softly. "It's me, Sarah." Linda's eyes fluttered slightly. Her fingers moved, ever so slowly, around Sarah's hand. Then, with a voice so faint it was almost a breath, she whispered something. Sarah leaned in closer, barely able to hear. "Run," Linda rasped. Sarah frowned. "Run." Linda's eyes opened just a little. She tried to speak again, gathering her last strength. "Run away from my son." Time stopped. Sarah pulled back slightly, confused. "What?" Linda gripped her hand with what little strength she had. "Marcus, he's not who you think. Don't trust him. Please get out." Her voice cracked, her chest rose once more, and then everything went still. The line on the heart monitor went flat. Nurses rushed in, calling her name. One tried CPR. Another called for the doctor. But Sarah already knew. She was gone. She stood frozen, her mind racing. She couldn't move, couldn't cry. Her body was numb, but her heart thundered. Why would Linda say that? What did she mean? Why warn her now, when there was no time to explain? Sarah stood in the corner of the hospital room, staring at Linda's lifeless body as nurses slowly covered her with a white sheet. One thing was clear. Linda hadn't just spoken out of fear. She had spoken out of guilt and love. And whatever she meant, it wasn't just a warning. It was a secret, a dangerous one. One that could change everything Sarah thought she knew about her marriage. Sarah didn't speak during the drive home. She sat quietly in the front seat of Marcus's SUV, staring out the window at the city passing by. Her fingers were locked in her lap, cold and still. Her heart was racing, but she didn't let it show. The sound of the engine was the only thing filling the silence. Marcus looked calm, almost too calm. "I already called the funeral home," he said flatly. "They'll handle everything." Sarah turned slowly to look at him. "That's it." He shrugged. She was old, Sarah. She was suffering. "What else do you want me to say?" She didn't answer. She didn't have the words. Not for this moment. Not with him. Marcus didn't ask if Linda said anything before passing. Not a single question. Sarah turned back toward the window, her mind filled with the final whisper. Run away from my son. Her chest tightened as she remembered the fear in Linda's eyes. The pain. The urgency. She hadn't spoken out of confusion. Linda had known exactly what she was saying. Sarah arrived home, but something in her had shifted. She wasn't just sad anymore. She was scared. That evening, after Marcus went to bed, Sarah crept down the hallway to Linda's old room. They had moved into her house after getting married, claiming it would be easier to care for her. But now, Sarah wondered if Linda had agreed because she wanted to protect her. The room still smelled like lavender. Sarah stood quietly for a moment, letting the memories of warm tea, slow talks, and Linda's soft voice pass through her. Then she walked to the corner where a tall wooden dresser stood. She pulled open the bottom drawer. Inside were folded scarves, a Bible, and a stack of notebooks. Sarah gently moved them aside and found something strange, a small velvet pouch. Inside it was a silver key. Her breath caught in her throat. She knew exactly where it belonged, the old chest at the back of Linda's closet. Her hands shook as she opened the closet door. It was filled with winter coats and boxes of books. But tucked behind a large green suitcase was the chest, wooden, with iron edges and a small keyhole. She dropped to her knees, pushed the key into the lock, and turned. Click. Inside the chest were old letters, photographs, and something that made her heart stop. A police report. She picked it up and read it slowly, word for word. Suspect, Marcus Dawson. Incident type, domestic assault. Victim, name withheld. Outcome, charges dropped after victim declined to proceed. Tears filled her eyes. Her throat tightened. Another paper. A private investigator's file. The name on the front, Claire Evans. Sarah turned the page. Claire had dated Marcus years ago. She had filed a complaint. She had packed to leave. Then she disappeared. Sarah flipped through more pages. A handwritten note from Linda was tucked inside. If you're reading this, then I failed to protect you too. He's not safe. I know it. I saw it. Please, be smarter than I was. Get out before it's too late. Sarah dropped the letter. Her breathing became shallow. She looked around the room, suddenly feeling like the walls were closing in. This wasn't just about a bad marriage. This was something deeper, something darker. And Linda had known all along. Sarah quickly placed everything back in the chest, locked it, and slid it deep into the closet. She kept the silver key tucked in her bra, her hands still shaking. From down the hallway, she heard Marcus's voice. Sarah? Where are you? She stood up fast, brushed her hair back, and forced her voice to sound normal. I'm just in the kitchen. Come to bed, he said. You've been acting weird lately. She bit her lip to stop it from trembling. Coming, she said softly. But inside her heart, a quiet voice had awakened. She could no longer pretend. She could no longer trust him. Linda had died to give her a warning. Now, it was her turn to act on it. Sarah lay in bed beside Marcus, pretending to sleep. His steady breaths filled the room. The moonlight spilled through the window, casting soft shadows on the wall. But Sarah didn't close her eyes. Her mind was far from that room. She kept thinking about the police report, the missing woman named Claire Evans, and Linda's shaking voice. Run away from my son. She waited until Marcus began snoring softly. Then she carefully slid out of bed, grabbed her phone, and tiptoed into the hallway. Inside the guest bathroom, she sat on the floor, locked the door, and opened her browser. She typed, Claire Evans Missing Woman Ohio, 2014. Dozens of links appeared. News articles, blog posts, old photos. She clicked one. 24-year-old Claire Evans disappeared shortly after filing a complaint against her boyfriend. She was last seen leaving her apartment late at night. Her car was found abandoned. Her family still seeks answers. Sarah stared at the grainy photo attached to the article. Claire had kind eyes, a soft smile, hair curled to her shoulders. She was beautiful. And gone. Sarah scrolled through more stories, each one telling the same thing. Claire had vanished after trying to escape someone toxic. Someone dangerous. One detail made Sarah's heart stop. The boyfriend was never named by police, but the family believed he had a temper, a history of controlling behavior, and access to powerful legal help. Sarah's throat tightened. It was Marcus. She was sure of it. Suddenly, a tear rolled down her cheek. Was she the next Claire? She quickly found a website made by Claire's sister. There was a contact form at the bottom with a message that read, "If you know anything, even the smallest detail, please don't stay silent. Claire deserves justice." Sarah hesitated, then typed, "I think I'm married to the man your sister tried to escape. I need help. Please don't ignore this message." She hit send. She held her breath afterward, as if the walls might start speaking. She didn't sleep that night. The next morning, she tried to act normal. She smiled at Marcus, poured his coffee, and laughed at his jokes. But her hands trembled as she handed him his keys. "I'll be working late tonight," he said casually. "Order something for dinner." Sarah nodded. "Okay." The moment he left, she rushed back to the guest room and opened the closet. She unlocked the chest again and took out Linda's old notebook. The pages were filled with notes, dates, and small observations. She flipped to a page where Linda had written, "Claire's call. Scared. Said Marcus threatened her if she ever tried to leave again. I told her to come stay with me. She never arrived." Sarah's tears came again. She finally understood. Linda had tried to save Claire. And now, she had tried to save her too. That afternoon, Sarah received a reply to her message. It read, "This is Rebecca, Claire's sister. I've been waiting years for a message like yours. Please, let's meet. I believe you. And I think you're in danger." Sarah's hands trembled as she read it. Danger. The word echoed in her head. She looked around the room slowly. Everything looked normal. Clean. Beautiful. But beneath it all was a trap. Marcus had built a life so polished on the outside, but behind the walls were secrets, warnings, and missing women. Sarah knew now she couldn't just wait and hope. She needed to act, because Marcus didn't know she had the files. And if she waited too long, he just might make her disappear too. Sarah sat by the window, her heart pounding as she clutched her phone. Rebecca, Claire's sister, had just replied, and the words kept repeating in her mind. I believe you, and I think you're in danger. Sarah felt a strange mix of fear and relief. For the first time, someone else knew the truth. She wasn't imagining it. She wasn't crazy. She wasn't alone. She messaged Rebecca back. Can we meet tomorrow morning? Somewhere public. Rebecca replied quickly. Yes. There's a cafe off Maple Street. Quiet. Safe. I'll be there at 10 a.m. Sarah breathed deeply. She now had a time, a place, and a reason to believe she could finally escape. But she had to be careful. Marcus could never know. That night, Sarah cooked dinner like nothing had changed. She set the table and smiled at Marcus when he walked in. How is work? She asked, forcing calm into her voice. He shrugged. Busy. You look tired. I didn't sleep well. He studied her face, then reached for her wrist gently. You've been distant lately. Sarah pulled her hand away casually. I'm just grieving. Marcus nodded, but something flickered in his eyes. Something cold. He kissed her cheek and went to change. As soon as he left the room, Sarah took the opportunity. She quietly grabbed her phone and texted someone she hadn't spoken to in nearly 2 years. Jordan Harper. Jordan had been a close friend before she met Marcus, a quiet, kind tech guy who used to help her fix her laptop. They lost touch after she got married. Marcus didn't like her talking to other men. Jordan, it's Sarah. I know this is sudden, but I need your help. Please don't ask why. Just say you'll come. Within seconds, a reply came. Sarah? Of course. Where are you? Are you okay? She texted her address, quickly adding, Don't come inside. Park down the street. I'll explain later. The next morning, Sarah told Marcus she was going to the library. He didn't ask questions. He rarely cared where she went during the day, as long as she came back. She dressed simply, packed a small bag with a few clothes, the police reports, Linda's letter, and her ID. She hid the silver key in her shoe. Then she stepped out the door and didn't look back. Jordan's car was waiting 2 blocks down, just like she'd asked. He stepped out as she approached. He looked surprised, but not in a bad way. "You okay?" he asked. Sarah nodded quickly, her voice shaky. "I'll explain everything. Just drive. Please." He opened the passenger door. She got in. And as they drove off, her chest tightened. Not from fear this time, but from the rush of finally making the first move to save herself. They stopped at his sister's house in a quiet neighborhood. Jordan's sister, Natalie, welcomed Sarah with kindness and without questions. She showed her to a guest room and offered her tea. Once Sarah was alone with Jordan, she told him everything, slowly, carefully, every piece of what had happened. By the end, Jordan was silent. "I always had a bad feeling about that guy," he finally said. "But this is serious, Sarah." She nodded. "I need to meet someone tomorrow. A woman named Rebecca. Her sister, Claire, was one of Marcus's exes. She went missing." Jordan leaned back. "You think Marcus was involved?" "I don't just think it anymore. I know." Jordan looked at her, his expression changing. "Then we need to be smart. I'm going to scan those documents. Make digital copies. Store them somewhere safe, just in case." Sarah felt her throat tighten again. "Thank you. I don't know what I would have done without you." "You're not alone anymore," he said gently. "And you're not going back." That night, Sarah lay on the soft guest bed, holding Linda's letter close to her chest. She thought about the life she had left behind. The lies, the fear, the quiet suffering. And then she thought about the next morning. She was going to meet Rebecca. And if what Rebecca knew matched what Sarah feared, the truth about Marcus would finally come to light. The next morning came with the soft glow of sunlight through the guest bedroom window. Sarah hadn't slept much. Her nerves kept her up, but her decision was clear. She dressed in jeans and a light sweater, tied her hair back, and slipped Linda's letter and the documents into her bag. Then she took a deep breath and stepped into the living room. Jordan was already awake, sitting at the kitchen table with his laptop open. "I made copies of everything," he said. "Backed them up online. If anything happens, I'll send them to the police and the press." Sarah nodded, deeply grateful. "Thank you for believing me." Jordan looked her straight in the eye. "You don't need to thank me. You just need to get your life back." By 10 a.m., Sarah was at the cafe on Maple Street. She sat by the window, her fingers wrapped tightly around a cup of tea. The door chimed, and a woman walked in, short brown hair, tired eyes, and a quiet strength in her step. It was Rebecca. She spotted Sarah instantly and approached. "I'm Rebecca," she said softly. Sarah stood and hugged her. They sat across from each other, both a little nervous, both carrying years of pain. "I still think about Claire every day," Rebecca said. She was bright, funny, but when she met him, everything changed. She became quiet, afraid. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "That's exactly how I felt." Rebecca took Sarah's hand. "Thank you for coming forward." Sarah handed her the documents, the police report, Linda's letter, the private investigator's file. Rebecca's hands trembled as she looked through them. This is what we never had. Proof." Sarah whispered, "I think Linda knew more. She left this for me so I could finally get out." Rebecca closed her eyes for a moment. "Then we do this. Together." Later that day, they both walked into the police station. Rebecca had already contacted a lawyer and a retired detective who had once worked Claire's case. With the new documents, statements, and digital evidence Jordan helped prepare, the police agreed to reopen the investigation, this time seriously. Marcus didn't see it coming. Within days, Sarah filed for divorce through a lawyer. She didn't go back home. She didn't take the risk. Through Linda's updated will, everything was left in Sarah's name, including the house Marcus thought he owned. The moment he found out, he exploded, shouting at Sarah over the phone, threatening to ruin her. But she recorded the call and gave it to the police. Soon after, Marcus was brought in for questioning. His charm couldn't protect him anymore. With the pressure of a reopened case, a family that wouldn't stay silent, and a woman who finally found her voice, the truth began to unfold. 3 months later, Sarah sat on the same hospital bench where Linda had whispered those final words. Only this time, her heart was calm. She looked up at the blue sky and whispered, "I listen, Linda." I ran. Then she smiled, tears slipping down her cheeks, but not from pain.
From peace.
Sarah moved into a small apartment not far from where she had stayed with Jordan and Natalie. She didn't rush anything. She focused on healing, on writing, on helping other women who had stories like hers. The house Marcus once controlled? She sold it and used part of the money to create a support fund for women escaping emotional abuse. She called it the Final Whisper Foundation. Because sometimes the words someone leaves behind become the beginning of someone else's freedom. That brings us to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Kindly subscribe to my channel, like, and share this video to your friends and loved ones. You can also comment what you feel about the story under the comment section. Your support and engagement encourage me to post more videos. Thanks for watching.